So today you are welcome to the Organ House concert and seminar series. Thanks for your patience and your individual patience, of course. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your firm commitment to this process and this series. Thank you so much. So for today, the focus is different. It's new. Yeah. So today we are starting a new series around music and AI and digital technology. We call it the Organ House AI Music Dialogue. So we are happy to have you as part of our foundational colleagues, friends, and participants in this particular. I will return to the new AI music dialogue. But before that, we need to acknowledge the university, the Mountain Top University, particularly the fellow for creating this wonderful opportunity for us. Then also our HOD, the person of Mr. Bayo of Williami, for giving us the opportunity as the head of the department to run and to host and for the department to carry on this kind of initiative. Thank you so much. So today we are, like I mentioned earlier, we are moving into a new level, a new, form of dialogue, conversation, particularly around things that matters to the world right now, not just in Nigeria or Africa. The issues of artificial intelligence and digital technology, they are common phenomena across the world. Not common in the sense that they are popular, they are common in the sense that they bring the world together they tend to drive all people, continent, in the same context. And like something of that nature is not unproblematic. But the question is that we are not focusing on the problematic per se. We are focusing, we are negotiating the positivity and the potential of artificial intelligence to the African continent, particularly to Nigerian cultural ecosystem, academic, artistic work, music production, and broadly the creative industry. So today, I'm happy to welcome you into this wonderful series. And as you follow us also, we are looking forward to hearing from you for your own perspective, how we can work together to take advantage of artificial intelligence. Once again, welcome to the Organ House AI Music Dialogue. And today, our presenter, discussant, or expert, I think that's the best word to say, is no other person than Mr. Bankole Jr. Mr. Bankole is not it's a common phenomenon and it's a common knowledge among for many of us. So shortly, I will hand over the baton to him for him to introduce himself and we get into the dialogue. Once again, thank you so much. We are always excited to have you and also having you as part of this initiative and this series and this particular dialogue as well. So, you are welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Kindly introduce yourself and let our colleagues, our friends online, and those on site, they need to know you. Yeah. Kindly introduce yourself to them, please.
Well, my name is Bankole Jr. I'm a pianist, producer, teacher, as well as a music scholar. I started out very early after I finished in university. Actually, before then, I was actually quite involved in production and working with recording musicians and things like that. And over the years, I've kept up that interest, as well as been more involved in acquiring technology and learning about this technology.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, so let's move into the conversation for the day and see how Again, before we launch into this process, I'd like to also inform us that this is a series that is going to run for at least up to 4 months. Isn't that a good news? Yeah. So up to 4 months. And during this process, we are going to have scholars, experts, IT gurus, music educators, and also producer of high, calibers. Those that some of these people, some of us we know them very well, and some of them are quite on that higher level. So we are going to have these categories of scholars, practitioners and professionals from the field, from industry, as well as from the scholarly community from the university, both within Nigeria and global north, and also from Asia, if possible, and Europe particularly. So it's going to be a long series, at least for 4 months. And through that process, also, we are going to have Mr. Bankole also co-hosting these people, co-engaging, these experts and all these practitioners in the process. We are also going to have other scholars that are also going to join in this engagement and hosting process. So that is just to open a kind of the context and the process of this dialogue. So quickly, let's move into that process, into that big deal, into that big question of the world of artificial intelligence, or let's say digital technology. So when I say digital technology, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about artificial intelligence in this context now. So I think the first thing we unravel, which is quite important, is the phenomenon itself. Like people would say, is now becoming the elephant in the room across space. Particularly in the music space, for instance. I'm sure some of you have seen a lot of. We've had news, we've seen videos here and there flying about artificial intelligence taking and doing that. I'm sure you have all those stories and you know all those details. But today, we also need to go back into the context of the nature of artificial intelligence. So then the first point for us today to explore is what is artificial intelligence? What is it? Particularly in relation to the culture of digital technology. So I think I'm going to hand over that to Mr. Bankole to really, to take us through this process and, let's engage, let's explore the context. What is AI?
Well, we should first of all look at AI as building upon early other technologies. So really, it's the combination and use of these technologies that have existed before. Precisely, for instance, we should be looking at what does digitization mean, and what does digitalization mean. So when we talk about digitization, basically that's the process by which other forms of information, such as pictures, um, text, sound waves, are converted to um, bits and bytes, binary system, whereby the computers are able to now store those informations. So there's a process by which normal imagery, sound, and other kinds of information are converted into a form which is bits and bytes, eyes and knots and ones, and by which the computers are able to manage, store, convert, process these information, this data. So if, for instance, we look at, and when it is in the digital realm, it allows digital devices such as phones, computers, etc., to be able to, and even the internet, for instance, to be able to manipulate these various types of information, store it, process it, and so on. So that is digitization. But beyond digitization is digitalization, which is how digital systems, digital information is now used within the context of our daily lives, our work, and so on, our business processes, and so on. So it's through the process of digitalization, for instance, that we have what, for instance, in music we call a digital audio workstation. It takes advantage of digital tools and various aspects of digitization, such as the conversion of audio into a digital format, and thereby one can now store it, manipulate it. So things like samples and so on are based upon the fact that we can digitize sound. But the digital audio workstation allows us to manipulate these sounds and then output it. Typically, for instance, if for instance you use your phone to record somebody, what is happening is that there's an analog input, which is the sound, the audio. It is converted into a format that your phone can understand. And from that point in time, you can actually edit it, shorten it, or whatever you want, pitch it up, pitch it down, make it fast, make it slow. And then from there, you can now output it again through the external output of the phone. So this is a digital system. So when we now come to AI, artificial intelligence basically is the combination of this, where computer systems are trained to manipulate and try to think like a human being. So when we say general artificial intelligence, we're talking about the ability, the intent to have computers think in a human-like way for the purpose of being able to process information, come up with outputs, and come out with outputs or outcomes. And any of these things that are done by a computer are going to be done much faster, much faster, with less stress than it would cost a human being.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, we are coming back to that. Yeah, we are coming back to that. But thanks for that explanation. But perhaps I think there's another thing we also need to quickly, perhaps needs to be made clear, or more that we can flesh on. At what particular point in history did we start talking about AI? Is it a recent thing, 7, 10, 15, 20 years, or 100 years, or 200 years ago?
Well, truth be told, for instance, I was looking at one aspect of AI which people don't realize has become so commonplace, which is, for instance, flight simulators. So flight simulators make use of artificial intelligence for the purpose of training, and the commercial airlines and the training schools, military pilots and so on, they make use of this technology such that, because it's easier for them to use a machine or a computer simulation to allow their pilot to train their pilots than to crash hardware which might cost millions of dollars. So using a simulator saves them this expense of having to, waste valuable resources just for the training. So looking into the flight simulators, for instance, which is an aspect of which embraces artificial intelligence, at least within the last 40 years anyway. So if we look at that model, for instance, they've been designing and using flight simulators since the early 20th century. I'm talking about from about 1920, 1925, as early as that. So, but when when it became commonplace, if we're talking about artificial intelligence in the context of flight simulation, when it became commonplace was starting from about the 50s, 60s. And then the airlines really started adopting it in full from about maybe late 80s. And by early 90s, it was commonplace. Yes. But we should also bear in mind that these advances in the use of technology for advanced purposes, algorithms, and so on, has also been dependent upon a parallel development within the manufacture of various types of components that computers use. Wow. For instance, the speed of the motherboard and the processor chip, the amount of memory that was available, amount of hard disk space. When computers first came out, if you wanted to load up, like when Windows 95 came out, I think Windows 95, you needed about 20 floppy disks, and it was a process of about, let's say, 9-10 hours to install a Windows 95 on a computer. So in recent times, yes, it was 10 hours. And then at that point in time, also, if you wanted to do something called rendering of a video, sometimes you'd have to be at it like for 2 days or 1 day at a go. And God help you if there was a power interruption, because that would mean automatically maybe you've rendered it like 30% of the way, and there's a power outage. Then you need to start again. You're going to start again. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
So we've actually come a long way, at least let's say from the 1950s. Yeah. And I think the point also is that when we talk about digital technology or AI, these are not new phenomenon per se. They are new, but they are also not new in the sense of something that is just that emerged from the blue. Like we all know, every revolution, every innovation they often emerge, from an initial development. So what we're talking about today is that digital technology has moved to a new level at which, the power, the visibility is more compelling, or, compelling in the sense that it's visible and it's also enhancing productivity while also disrupting, of course, traditional ideas, But the point is that these are not new in that sense. The question for us is that what is new about them, and how are they, changing everyday lives? How is AI or digital technology how is it changing people's lives? What are its ways of doing these things?
Yeah. Okay, I think when like we just mentioned some time ago, artificial intelligence has been there for quite a while, and we've been using it without really knowing that we are actually using it so much. But one of the things that actually brought it to the fore of our attention was the release late last year of Chat GPT. And Chat GPT basically is so-called generative artificial intelligence. And basically, this is the situation. This is how can we describe it? What happens is that the computer is trained on very, very large sets of data about various things. So it could be books, and then it's also trained to be able to give human-like responses in language. So by the same token, it's a large language model. So this is what brought, I think, the whole issue of artificial intelligence to the fore. And within the first 5 days of the release of ChatGPT, it had already hit. I think we have a slide that shows that we had already hit 1 million within 5 days.
Yeah.
1 million subscribers.
Yeah.
Of ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is not the only so-called chatbot. There are many others. There's Claude. There's Perplexity AI. Microsoft has one which is called Bing. Google has, which is called Bard, and some of these are actually specialized in the kind of information they give. For instance, Claude AI, it's spelled CLAUDE dot AI, is actually one of those which um, is geared towards academic research. Um, the one on Bing, for instance, tends to have access to the internet, and so you can use it for finding out extra information about either products or your hobbies and so on. But getting back to your question, how we've interacted and engaged with this technology, which we might not necessarily have realized is artificial intelligence. I have a slide there too. When I was on my way, the one on daily disruptions. So on my way here, I was coming from the island, and I wanted to look at. I said, how long will it take me to get to this place? I can't afford to be late. So immediately I keyed in Mountain Top University as my destination, and then I was hunting for. I said, "What's the fastest way?" So eventually, I was able to see. It now pointed out, okay, it will take me 45 minutes.
The one with map.
It will take me 45 minutes, and so, but getting very close by to this area, it hadn't charted that shortcut. So I ended up spending an extra 10 minutes on the road. So even technology, we have to take it with a pinch of salt. It might not be perfect all the time.
I think it's a slide with the map. Yeah, the slide with the map.
Slide to the map. Anyway, so sometimes, for instance, another time I remember driving towards Ijebu. I was looking for a particular secondary school where I was supposed to drop my daughter off. And I was following the Google Map technology, and eventually it took me to a river and there was no bridge. So I had to eventually turn back. Anytime, for instance, you're using WhatsApp Messenger, or some of these others, there's an autocorrect function on the phones. These are uses of AI. In Google Docs and all these other things, autocorrect and other features are there. They're all under the bonnet or inside the engine. There's these applications are making use of artificial intelligence. Anytime you go into Google, for instance, and say Google search, and then you type in, maybe you might say music. It will give you several options. It might say musician, it might say musicology, it might say art music. Basically, it's basically trying to find out what interests you, and basically try and get second guess. This is part of search engine optimization. So it's going to try to match you to the kind of content that you're looking for. These are also aspects of this of artificial intelligence algorithms. Yes.
Okay. I think we have the map.
Yeah. So I was trying to see how to get here, and it had told me that it's going to take me this one. I did this one last night, but the actual one I used today told me it was going to take me 1 hour 5 minutes, and it was 1 hour 3 minutes, and it was spot on. It kept on tracking me. It was telling me, okay, if there's congestion at this point, there's
alternative
route. There's an alternative route. There's a shortcut. And the only place where this particular journey failed me was when I was getting very close to mountaintop, and I was trying to avoid going past mountaintop and then looping back. So I was looking for the shortcut that would take me under the bridge. So the technology has its uses, and we're all using it across our daily lives. People are using it to date. For instance, people use instead of like the normal, traditional, conventional ways of meeting people who you want to engage with socially. People are using the technology. So a lot of people are meeting their mates or people that they're going to get married to through dating apps. There's so many ways by which this technology is being used and abused.
Wow. Okay, I think we'll definitely get to that session shortly. Okay, I think for me, that's quite apt. Thanks so much for opening that layer also to this discourse on artificial intelligence. So then the question also, okay, before the next one, I think there's something that is quite important also, which we might push into the other discourse or what people might see as the negative aspect of digital intelligence or digital technology. And that is the idea that, which is common right now, that we are afraid of this thing. It's going to take our job, it's going to take people's job, it's going to take people out of job, and people are not going to get job again. Because, for instance, last November, when ChatGPT was released, many university professors, particularly the older ones, kicked against it. I said, no, 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 this is not going to work. This is not going to work. There are a lot of controversies at the time. And though universities adopted it, for instance, in the US, it was adopted by the second week already. But that first week, it actually generated a lot of,
There was a
discord,
negative
a
backlash.
negative backlash. Of course, people said, no, this is not good, this is not this, and because also they, of course, universities, they would definitely look for one spot at which they want to, use to engage, which is the idea of ethics. For instance, where is he getting the information from? This is going to, affect intellectual process, rights, royalties, all those stuff. But by the second week, actually, universities started adopting AI in the curriculum. In my school, for instance, by the second week already is part of the syllabus. If students are, attentions are called to the reality of ChatGPT, how they can use it for their own benefit, for research, for understanding, but not that ChatGPT should be doing their own work for them. How to use it to engage, also we'll definitely get to that section. But the question is, what do you think about this controversy? And also, we've seen this around across Africa. Also, people are now saying people are so skeptical about the idea that this thing is going to take our job. Because, for instance, even in Europe, in the US, and a place like South Africa, many banks don't have people sitting at the counter anymore. What you do when you go to bank is that at the door you have this automated machine. You call something, you just put your account, you put your account number, and you're gonna ask you, what do you want from us today? Just it's gonna give you option up to five. I want to withdraw, I want to make complaint. Just click. These are this what this particular machine is doing now is the job of like 20 people. Like years before, you see contact, you move from one customer desk to the other desk. People are not sitting there anymore. It is this one machine and few people that are responding to thousands of people on a daily basis. Is this a disruption? Is this something? What do you think about this? And particularly in the music context or academic context, university context, what do you think about this?
I believe that technology always brings upheaval. I'm sure when fire was invented, some people kicked against it. Why? Why are you using fire? When cars first came out, people that wanted to use horse and buggies were complaining about the pollution of what we call it. Technology is a bit technology by itself is not dangerous. It's how we use the technologies that becomes dangerous. You can use electricity to power a microwave. You can use electricity to power a microwave. You can use it to electrocute somebody. In fact, the death penalty in the United States, to the best of my knowledge, is still carried out using using electric chair. So
Wow.
technology, so technology is can be used for good. It can be used for bad, and for that reason, people will put laws in place. There will be ethical considerations. What are the ethical uses of this?
Mm.
So going back to you said that in America that a lot of that a lot of the universities have generally adopted it
Yeah.
and are working with it. Same thing in Australia. I think in Australia initially banned the use of AI, but within about 2 3 months, the Educational Board of Australia came out with a document pointing for the use of and the engagement with artificial intelligence. And they put together a 5 point or 6 point agenda where they point out, okay, fair use, ethical, and so on and so on and so forth. So I think, with the technology we have, if we're looking at education, for instance, we cannot, the genie has already been let out of the box. We cannot go back to a point where a person would physically have to go to individual libraries one by one, physically at great expense, and then now find this book, and then go to another library and find another book, where at the touch of a button, you can leverage artificial intelligence to give you a list of these of texts that are relevant to a particular topic,
Yeah.
right? Having said, just like I was giving the example I gave some minutes ago, where sometimes you can use AI, like for instance Google Maps, and you find yourself, maybe you're going to Ibadan and you find yourself in Mushin, or you're going to Mushin and you find yourself in Ibadan. So sometimes it can give a completely erroneous reply.
Yeah.
So sometimes, for instance, if you're using a generative AI LLM, large language model like ChatGPT, you cannot be 100% dependent on it. You must know what you're talking about so that you can filter out when it is not telling you, giving you the right information.
Yeah.
Similarly, a lot of the programmers of this OpenAI, for instance, and there's another one, DAL-E. DAL-E creates images. It's another one of the platforms on the OpenAI. What do you call it? They have made it kind of almost impossible for you to generate immoral images. So some of them are working very hard to make sure that we cannot abuse the use of these things. Pornography, for instance, or especially child pornography, is frowned on across the world. So you would not be able to use AI tools to either to promote or to create images that are unethical. So there's this argument that's going on. Having said, we cannot always be. A lot of these things are going to be up to the individual. So who is to say when somebody is unfairly exploiting somebody else's work? Whether that work is a drawing, a painting, a speech, a presentation, whatever it is, these kind of things happen all the time. And with AI, we have a situation where it can do small modifications of things to color the original source. Yeah. So, and then also we have, on the other hand, we also have the fact that as creative people, our creativity does not start all of a sudden. Mozart referenced Bach.
Yes.
Chopin referenced Bach, Bach and Mozart.
Yeah.
Coltrane referenced Bach.
Of course.
Coltrane and Charlie Parker referenced Bach. And so we find that knowledge is always built on other existing knowledge. Yeah. So there's the issue of at which point does it become fair use and fair inspiration, and at which point is it outright plagiarization, which is an issue that intellectuals are always being very careful about.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that the other layer to it is, I'm sure you recently you heard about the Hollywood strike.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood strike.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, because the copywriters felt, writers felt that their jobs are going. And well, the way I would look at it is that, Anike the bird, for instance, in Gina Achebe's novel, says that since hunters have learned how to fight, how to shoot without missing, birds too have learned how to fly without perching. So it's important for artists, writers, and so on to improve their game. You can't just come and play a simple chord, boom, boom, and then expect everybody is going to be falling over you. No, you must do something that is inspired, that is different, and that is unique. And using the tools that are available now, you have even more opportunity to come up with even more original content. And the leverage of AI allows one to develop a lot of ideas very rapidly.
Well, I think we are getting to that point. But before that, for those who are joining us, who are just coming, checking into the room, again, you are welcome. This is the Organ House concert and seminar series, and today we are launching a new series called AI Music Dialogue. So you are welcome, and I think you are the right space, if I may say. Yeah. But the point is that today we are laying the foundation for a 4-month series that is going to explore every component of AI in our everyday life, right from music making in studio to concert hall and to the listening on the market space, production of music and circulation from every corner of our society, how this relates to us. We are going to explore in this 4-month series. So, and today we are laying this big foundation. We are laying this foundation and laying this the context for this huge and quite broad, conversation and concern around AI. So that is what we are doing today. And I'm happy to have Mr. Bankole Jr. to lay down this foundation, the context, and as we progress, we are going to have other professionals from the field, from the industry, both in the academia, music production, sound design, composition, and every area of our society, including language and mass media, film. We are going to have all these people alongside Sayo Bankole to explore these changes and how we can take advantage of it in our own contemporary world in Nigeria. Yeah. So thank you. Then the next question is, from what you just said, I think I find that very interesting because, like I said earlier, people, although I think it's quite normal for people to react to change, people assimilate or embody or respond to change in not in the same way. Some, it's more like a panic. Oh, this is going to take my job. Oh, this is going to make me irrelevant. Oh, this is going to make me invisible. It's going to take my skill or whatever. So it is normal, and across the world people respond to this in different ways. But the question here is, what about the musical experiences? What about the musical experience?
It's funny that you should bring it up, because I was just thinking about, you said about the writers going on strike in America. Now, in music, we have actually more possibilities, because it is now possible for us to take somebody's voice and make that voice either a speech or singing, to make that voice perform music that person would not normally perform. So a recent case of that kind of happening was the Drake AI. There's a So Drake wrote a song originally titled Heart of My Sleeve, and a guy called Ghostwriter did a different version of it. So that guy was able to, you know, the ghostwriter guy was able to distort and create new lyric content, and it went so viral that it was actually nominated for a Grammy award.
Wow.
Until when the Grammy people said no, we're not having this. That the song is not that the vocals were not legally obtained. They were not cleared by the label or the artist. Additionally, the song is not commercially available, further impacting its illegibility. And so the academy stressed that it's in support and advocates for human artists and creators. So they've taken a stance against this kind of thing. There's a small clip if you want to show it. Yes, this guy. Yes.
For the beat, if you want to dive even further into how this beat was made, you can access the FLP and the stems on my Patreon page. Now, before we dive into the vocal production, I would like to say that I don't condone making music in this way. And I'd like to point out the two most important legal and ethical concerns regarding the use of generative AI to mimic Drake or any other artist for that matter. Point number one, it is illegal to So that's still illegal, but it's not too bad. It gets worse when you start making him say things that he wouldn't want to say. So you could misinterpret him entirely to negatively impact his public image. For instance, Drake has had many controversies in the past, one of which being the rumor back in 2019 that he was a bad father and neglected his son Adonis. Since then, he has clearly tried to change that perspective in the eyes of the public. And whether or not it was the case that he was a bad father or not, it doesn't matter. You can now use AI to write lyrics for him to speak about being a bad father. Scary. But with all that being said, this was me recreating the vocals. Singing Drake songs, you want it to be like you're getting a lot of noise coming through this, like the top of your mouth. His voice is very nasally. I am Drake. You'll hear it like, I came in with my ex like Selena to flex, bumping Justin Bieber, but a fever ain't left, she know what she need, she bless. Anyway. So we're going to be uploading those vocals to an AI generator, which will convert the timbre of my voice into the likes of Drake. Once again, I definitely don't condone using this service. This is merely an educational video, and I don't want to promote this at all to anyone who doesn't want to get sued. So I uploaded my vocals, ran it through the program, downloaded it, and that's going to sound like this. I came in with my ex
like Selena to flex, bumping Justin Bieber, but a fever ain't left, she know what she need,
Now it's not done yet. A couple of things.
And so on. So that's just one application of this. Now it's very commonplace to have AI that will allow you to imitate somebody else's voice. It's even gotten to the point where you can create your own lyrics, artificially generate your own lyrics, and then input them into a program, and then use notation to shape the melodic intonation of the delivery of those lyrics using someone else's voice. So we have gone quite far. It's not perfect yet, and it's not absolutely perfect, but there have been quite a lot of recent offerings by artists that a lot of people might not even be able to see this. Which brings me to other things, some of the commonplace ways by which music technology and AI can interact and allow one to do different kinds of things. For instance, it's very commonplace now to be able to extricate a vocal from a mixed soundtrack So what I mean by that is, if somebody has you have recorded your vocal with your band and everything has been mixed up, in the old days it was impossible. You will not be able to get the voice out, or alternatively, have the you would not be able to isolate the voice and have the voice for itself. Neither would you be able to have the backing track, so that, for instance, you could use that material and sing on top of it. Now all these things are routinely done. I've done an example there, where there's a Christmas carol being rendered by a 9-year-old girl. Her name is what's her name? Claire. I think her name is Claire Crosby. So she performs the carol, and at a point in time, I needed a vocal that I would listen to and that I could build an arrangement around, not to use the person's voice for commercial release or anything like that. No, just simply as a guide to shape how to that I could build my arrangement around. So in the old days, when we're doing production, right, when you want to compose a tune or do some music, you'd probably use a flute or a clarinet or something to represent the melodic structure throughout. And for me, I found that, for instance, I found that rather, uninspiring, because when you play a flute, in those days especially, if you played a flute using a keyboard, the results were not always stellar. It would not always inspire you. You know that it was played by a keyboardist and not that it was performed by a live musician. Now the technology has gotten better. But in any case, if you have an opportunity to listen to somebody who is singing, that is much more inspirational, especially if you're trying to write an arrangement. So in this case, we can play a few seconds of it.
Away in a manger, no crib for his bed, the little Lord Jesus lays down his sweet head.
So I was able to educate her voice. I was able to put it in a fixed tempo, so that because this the clip in her clip, since there is just the two of them, it's the tempo goes all over. It goes all over the place. So sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. Towards the end of the song, it is actually very slow because she takes the third verse very slowly. But using technology, I was able to quantize her voice, meaning that I was able to keep it at a steady tempo. I increased that tempo from the original, which was 79 beats per minute, to 85. I was able to increase it to 85 beats per minute. And then for the third verse, I was able to transpose it up by a semitone, because the arrangement I wanted to do, which is not going to use this is just for the purpose of a guide for me. So we can play the
no crib for his bed, the little Lord Jesus lays down his sweet head. The stars in the heavens look down where he lay, the little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay. Lord Jesus, I ask thee to stay close by me forever and love me, I pray. Bless all.
So you can see that we're able to take her voice, panel beat it, or arrange it in such a way that it
to be on time,
so that it's in time,
exactly,
at the exact tempo that we want it to be, and then from there now move into a different key. So obviously, if everybody is doing disclaimers now to show that they're not they're not plagiarizing or using unethically other people's material. So same goes for me. Obviously, if to say that was my intention, of course I could use this voice as a model and then now create new lyrical content or even a completely new melody cloning this person's voice. But that's not the intention, was never the intention of this. So we have, and then on top of this, we have other tools that we can use. For instance, we can actually create lyrics, generate lyrics using AI, and then have those lyrics rapped, read the beats to it, and do all these kind of things without, having to actually bring in a musician to come and sing. Or yes, so we're really going for. In fact, I have an example of that. If you want, some weeks back, I took part in a symposium, and so the title of that was the future score from practice room to profit. So I used AI, artificial intelligence, to generate the lyrics based on the title, and then I got the AI to create the rap and to create the music.
Wow. Then, okay, perhaps when you're done, I have a question to that, and that is taking us into the. Well, let's see.
The music should be on that. So while we're waiting for...
Okay, so then the question is, I think it's ready.
Future score, decor burning sore. From practice rooms to the profit floor. Future score, decor burning sore. Music and machines creating the lore.
It's the future score, see the music soar. From practice rooms to profit open doors. 10 veering transformation, earnings galore. The symphony of change, who could ask for more?
Future score, decor burning sore. From practice rooms to the profit floor. Future score, decor burning sore. Music and machines creating the lore.
So this took about, I think was it like about an hour, 30 minutes of just playing around. I hadn't used that tool before, but I just playing around and walking around with, and that includes the time I used to generate the lyrics and so on, create the lyrics, get them, then now start generating the rap and mixing everything up together.
Yeah. Then the question then is, where I think we are going to the real context. Universities across the world are training musicians, pianists, drummers, saxophonists, flautists, singers. It sounds like human voice, but this is AI.
Yes.
Singing.
Yeah.
Then in this market, does it mean that we are now, competing with machine? We musicians train at universities or those trained on their own, or perhaps anywhere.
I think
are we in competition with this AI stuff? That's on the one hand.
I don't think we're in competition with them, but there are going to be different ways of doing things. I see AI as an extension of our capacity to think and be creative. Okay. We are going to absorb it and go. I can't remember if you remember a time when there was one technology that came out, and it was called, I think they used to call it the slide ruler. That slide ruler was a musical instrument, and basically had some patterns. So one guy managed to release a song when the going gets tough and the tough get going. I don't know if you know that song. Okay. Da 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 da. When the going go, very very crazy song like this. So that song made use of this so-called slide ruler, and it was that slide ruler had some beats in it. People were using those beats. don't talk that. And so what happens is that initially when the technology comes out, people are going to quickly try to use the low-hanging fruit, the things that they can quickly use to show that they and exploit it out for commercial gain. But after a while, people are going to rise above the mundane uses of these tools and start using them coherently. Use them to further the interest of their profession. For instance, nowadays you can take a shot of a room or take pictures of a room and then feed them into AI, and AI will now give you different designs for that. Of course, that's going to make that anybody that's an interior decor is going to be on their toes. You have to be doing things that are giving people value over and beyond what is just ordinary.
I think that's quite point. Thank you so much. Then the other point is this. I think I'm saying it in two ways, which these are the things we are going to explore throughout this series. The first one is that I think it's quite important for creativity and also enhancing productivity. I agree on that point. And I'm going to give a practical example. There is a particular organ product in Nigeria. I'm sure you might. Is it Atos or Alos organ?
Are we talking about the specific organ in a particular church?
No, there's one at a church, Baptist church somewhere. I think it's by some of those that Dr. Oloranti, his company is producing or selling now. One thing I noticed about the organ is that you could, the normal organ that I'm used to is that the one you draw the stuff when you are playing, you need to draw and draw. But this particular organ, you could just touch the button
and it just changes, and it changes registration.
Even the other organs, there's a setting that you can store different sounds. When you play, you can just press the button, they change.
Okay, you can memorize the registration.
Exactly, you can But this particular one, it's a screen build. Even this is more like a 22nd century, thinking like. But that is one which I think is quite effective in helping creativity thrive on the one hand. But on the other hand, let's go to keyboard now. I'm sure recently you've seen the new Yamaha Korg, all these new sophisticated keyboard designs. Because I play in church with younger generation and new guys who are on the street. What I've noticed, virtual pipe organ, VPO. Okay, thanks so much. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah. So then the other one is the other side, which I am quite concerned. Each time I play with guys, particularly across the gospel churches, they have this fantastic, motif, all this big keyboard. What they do is that they play on F sharp, but to their credit, when they can't play all the keys, but that type of keyboard, they don't need to even play on C, they just play on one key. They could play on that particular F sharp or whatever C sharp and play beautifully through the aid of this digital, orchestration, tone generator, tone mixing, and different sophisticated technological ideas.
That reminds me, years back.
But I'm coming. The point then is that none of this, after playing all this wonderful thing on this digitized, this sophisticated AI keyboard model, when you bring it to the piano, to grand piano, they are going to suffer and complain because they can't even manipulate successfully because all they are doing is just generating sound. So I call them keyboard operators. Keyboard operator. So how do we put this? We are training students, training pianists, training organists. How do we situate them in this new generation of musicians of today that we encounter and AI in this conversation?
All right. Well, let me first say this. As soon as you brought up this matter of this transposition, I remember years back we used to there was a place there was a place. There are two places that we used to go and play jazz as well as other forms of popular music very regularly. One was Jazzville in Yaba in Lagos. Another one was Jazz 38, which was around in Ikoyi, along Awolowo Road, run by the Ways.
Yeah.
So some of my friends, there are a couple of them, I won't mention their names. As soon as they're coming to come and jam with us, or come and jam, the father will say, "Where's the transpose button?" If they can't find transpose button, they're not going to play that instrument. So that's hilarious. But I think the modern musician must have a good understanding of technology. As soon as you mentioned VPOs, for instance, virtual pipe organs. Basically, that is a digital organ is a sampled organ. What they've done is they've sampled all the nuances, all the various tones, and they've taken it across all types of audio spectrums, including all audio spaces, including the shape of the church, and created samples that give that effect. So if you understand sampling technology, then it allows you, for instance, to create your own instruments. You can go and look for really exotic instruments from your village or from your town or from your culture, which are not being represented much in music. And then you can take a sample of this, or take samples of these instruments and use that to create new music. You can also use it educationally to demonstrate to your students, this is how this instrument sounds. So we are now in an age where it is expected that you should be able to engage with technology in such a way that it can enhance your learning, your creativity, your delving into research, your scholarly work. Also, in terms of your marketing, because this technology allows each person to be a one-man powerhouse. So I remember years back when I was in my early uni days, I used to often leave my university, which was University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and I'd go to Enugu to go and produce. What was I producing? I was producing demos. So when you produce a demo and a demo producer, you're going to have to wait for all the musicians to line up inside one room, one location. And then you're going to have to teach them all their parts. You do this, you do that. And in between that, one person or two persons might get up and say, hey, I want to go to the bathroom, or I need to go and have a smoke, or I'm not feeling well, or they might just start playing up. Musicians can be very interesting people. In the middle of a session, somebody might have been playing very well, and then all of a sudden might decide that he has whitlow in his left hand and now start playing badly. And then the only time when you get that whitlow to go away is if you now say, have some extra money for it, and the whitlow will disappear. So you now find situations where, because of those situations, when we're now able to start using MIDI to create music, it gave us the opportunity not to have to wait for a bassist. And the bass, if I play a bass driven by a computer in a sequencer, that bass is going to go on playing those notes exactly the way I played them for as many repeats. To play it 1,000 times, you do not get tired, you do not want to go to the bathroom, to not have headache, and you will not start asking me for more money for So the technology allows us to, if one embraces the technology, it allows us to do different things and to exercise a new level of creativity. And there are so many, I mean, there are too many opportunities to exploit use of this technology ethically.
Well, I think you mentioned something in closing, which I want to respond to, is the going to the village. That brings us to music research and music education. Music research and music education. I like the fact that you talk about sampling. How does this relate to music research, particularly Africa and particularly Nigeria music research? How the ideas of archiving indigenous music, and because I remember clearly, how the Chinese, Asians are engaging this and responding to the West, the Europe, in terms of modernity. You have, I'm sure we all know that we have this Western Symphonic Orchestra, but today also we have what we call the Asian Orchestra. These are indigenous instrument, has been rebuilt, has been remodeled, and they also have their own specific orchestra. We have this their recordings across YouTube. The question is, can Africa, Nigerians, do the same? Now that we now have digital intelligence, AI to help us, technology to help us do this, artificial intelligence to engage it. How do we go about it? Although I know this is part of the long series we are going to engage in the next 4 months, but since we are laying the foundation today, how do we start thinking, before getting to that particular spot in this series, mediating, sampling, and reproduce, or even having an African orchestra?
Well, first of all, I'm a great advocate of human engagement with instruments and so on. But at the same time, we should bear in mind that with urbanization, serious urbanization in Africa, rural urban migration, that we are in danger, and our languages and our cultures are being dissipated, because there will be people who will never speak their native language again. And there are communities where maybe they're only down to about, let's say, I was speaking with a lady late last year, and she said that in her own village that there are only about 200 speakers of their language, which is unique to them, and that the younger people are moving out to other parts of urban centers. So we have this challenge, which can be somewhat mediated by serious sampling techniques. And this sampling would mean, one, as much as possible, sampling every nuance of a musical instrument. So for instance, when we were talking about the organ just now, one of the essential ways by which organs are sampled is they will look for a particular organ. It will normally be the best product of its kind. And they would want to do that sampling in the best possible location. So the best organ and within the best. So if you had, let's say, 3 of a particular type of organ, of one particular type of organ, they look for the one that has the best acoustic signature. Then go and do the recordings there. They're going to use a whole array of different types of mics. They're going to mic. So for each stop, each sound, they're going to mic it maybe 3 feet, 9 feet, 20 feet, and do that for each stop. Then do it, sometimes they're going to do it with combinations of stops. Maybe do it with combinations of notes, just so that they have a wide sampling of the sound of the particular sound. So this has to be done, and it's expensive. It is expensive, and it is time consuming, and it requires the expertise of people who can accurately determine the best or optimum microphone positions, determine the quality of what they're recording, and so on. The other aspects to this sampling, or the use of the digital technology, because if you sample the sound and so on and so forth, and you've got all the various sounds associated with a particular musical instrument, it is actually possible now using AI to model that instrument. You take you take the pictures, the dimensions of this instrument, the material that is being used, the circumference of the cavity, all those kind of informations. Then you can now go into AI engines, which will tell you that if you want to get this type of sound, then and you use this particular material, that this is the sound that will result. So there are different ways in which the technology can be done. For instance, bata is used. Bata originates from Yoruba land, but we have, and our batas sound fantastic, but I doubt if they have the beauty or the bling of the ones that our brothers and sisters in Cuba and Brazil.
I see, yeah.
Yes, the ones in Cuba and Brazil, to most people, have the authentic sound.
Wow.
The sound is authentic, but their own presentation of these same things is actually different. Their own look beautiful.
Yeah, the package. Yeah.
So we have all these. There's so many things to be done along that line. One is to document. Document the sound. We can document the culture that is going, because the instrument by itself is also has a playing culture. What do people actually play on these instruments? What are they saying when they do this? How do they use these instruments to express their culture? So one again can sample all this information, the rhythmic, the kind of information that this is what we do when we have a newborn child. This is what we do when the king is going to be when the last king has died. This is the music that we use when we want to worship and so on. All these types of music can all be recorded, sampled, and decoded for us to use to be able to create new work. So even if to say we're not directly using the samples, we can actually use this to inform how we think about our music. What's the theory of our music? What obtains, and extricate all this information and use it to create new works, which still reference this, but reference the culture, but in new ways.
Wow, thank you so much. I think at this level, thank you so much. I mentioned earlier, for some of us who are just joining, recently joined the conversation. We welcome to the Organ House concert and seminar series. So today is the opening of a new series called Organ House AI Music Dialogue. So today we have Mr. Bankole Jr., and we are laying the context, the foundation for this series, particularly issues that are pertinent, that are important to contemporary times, and that's the relationship between artificial intelligence, digital technology, and our everyday life. When I mean everyday life, I mean music making, relationship, work, and how we produce knowledge, how we transfer things, how we represent our culture, how we dress, how we think about things, what is the role of media, how do we make music, how do we research music, how do we teach music, how do we consume music, how do we make money, how do we do this? These are in relation to other arts like film. We are going to have film section on Nollywood. We are going to have session on music education, session on language, session on mass media. So these are the things these are the foundations we are trying to lay today. And as Mr. Bankole has explained, from one team to the other, the reality of AI is not a distant reality anymore. It is something that, in fact, we have been living with for many years, but we don't know. Recently, it has come to our, the consciousness because of the new movement, the new approach, and the new development. And that's why we are staging this conversation to create awareness, to empower people, and to provide insight into artificial intelligence, which has now become a second nature of everyday life, not only in Nigeria, Africa. It's a global thing. Everybody is looking for solutions, how to take advantage. The question is, what are the potential? These are the things we are exploring here. So I think let's open the floor to our friends, colleagues, and our online and those on ground. So it's time to open the if you have questions or you have questions for Mr. Bankole, or you have any questions in this regard, particularly AI in relation to our own local context, music making, arts, culture, how do we embrace it? If you have any question, please signify by raising your hand, then we can engage the next few minutes before we close for today.